Dakota from ITRBoxing. I'm here with Avril Mathie, who's taking on Ramla Ali tomorrow. How you feeling about this one?
Oh, super excited. I'm really pumped. I think this is going to be a really good fight for me and a very winnable one.
Can you just tell me real quick about your squad that showed up, man? You had all kinds of noise being made for you. What's it like having that kind of support?
My people are the best. Like, they will travel. Like, they're unbelievable. I play beach volleyball just for fun, and we have a huge community, like, I don't know, 200 people plus in this community, but there's a core group of us that will always like get together and support each other for all of our events, and that's where that group originates.
So it was the beach volleyball crew that came to support today.
Crew, yeah.
That's awesome. So did you start boxing a little later?
I started boxing when I was 25, yeah.
So what brought you to boxing at 25?
So I used to do Muay Thai just for fitness. Like, I started as a teenager, kind of on and off, like put it down, picked it up, and then when I was like in my 20s, I was right into it, like, because I, got a little bit fat when I was 18, traveling, and no more high school sports, eating everything, and so I started to get into Muay Thai, like, just for fitness, and then I broke my foot, and all of a sudden boxing was the only thing I could do. I couldn't kick or knee because I couldn't put the foot back on the ground, and but I could hobble around on the outside of my foot, but I couldn't run, I couldn't jump, like nothing else. And so yeah, I started boxing, and with boxing, because all you've got is your hands, so like you're not kicking and kneeing. I guess the trainer was like, oh, I'll teach her a bit more defense, so there's like more to it than just like some punches.
Right, you need your feet to stabilize you, but you're not using them to kick somebody for impact.
Yeah, and so once he started teaching me defense, I was like, all right, like, someone throw punches at me. I need to see if I'm doing this right. And then that led to sparring, which then I was like, I want to fight. And, so I started fighting. Like 6 months later, my foot's still messed up because I'm an idiot and I didn't wear a moon boot like they told me to do.
Was that first spar, was that what gave you the bug?
I really sucked, and I was sparring girls that were really good, like Australian champion type of level, and they were going very easy on me, and maybe that gave me hope, because I was like, oh, I'm hanging with an Australian champion, probably taking for granted how easy they were going on me, and it was just fun.
So what was the point in your career where you said, all right, this is more than just fun, this is something serious, and at some point I'll be at Madison Square Garden with some of the best fighters in the world?
So actually, the first few years I boxed, I didn't really take it seriously. It was, like I said, it was just something I did for fun. It was a hobby. Like, I was fighting, but it was just like, a fun little hobby I did. And then it was when I split from my ex, and we owned a gym together in Australia, so that was kind of like...
A boxing gym or just a regular gym?
Just a regular gym. I mean, we had a boxing ring in it, but it was just a regular gym. And that was kind of what was like holding me in Australia, and why I didn't, decide to move to a different country sooner. And so after that split, I was kind of like, all right, I can be anywhere I want in the world. I can do anything I want with my life. Like, what do I want? And I was traveling a lot for modeling at that time, and I had, through that, been spending a bunch of time in Vegas, where I was introduced to a lot of people in the boxing community, just, because I'm like such a fan. I was like, there's boxing gyms here, like, take me around, show me. I'm like meeting super famous people. Like, that was how I met Chris Algieri, actually, who is now like a really good friend of mine. And I just like go around, meet these like super famous people. I didn't really have any idea who they were, because I didn't get into boxing as a fan. I just got into it because it was like something fun to do,
Right.
I never even watched boxing for years.
Right.
And so spending that time in Vegas made me realize, like, this is kind of where I need to be to like meet the people that are going to give you the opportunities. And I was realizing that that's probably not going to happen in Australia. And I was doing a bit of an assessment of the scene, and like most of our best boxers in Australia have other jobs. It's not like a viable career to just...
Even Ebony Bridges was a school teacher for a lot of her career,
Yeah, and she's only been able to make it because she moved overseas. Like,
right.
Look at all our boxers that had amazing success. It was because they went overseas and they lived overseas, and there's been maybe one or two that made it actually from Australia, and that was like 40 years ago, So
and somebody like Danny Green, that was a good example. He was a hell of a fighter.
Yeah, amazing fighter, but for most of his career just fought in Australia, so no one outside of Australia really knew who he was until when he actually, jumped on a plane and started fighting overseas. And there are fighters like that once they get to, they're 20, whatever, they'll come and fight overseas, but because they've spent their whole careers fighting like the Australian style, typically they haven't got that more rounded experience of fighting international fighters, training with international fighters, that, you know, they'll do well going overseas, but they often come up short. You know, they'll get the world title shot, but then they don't win it.
Right.
George Kambosos was one of it. You know, that was such a big deal for Australia because we hadn't had an Australian world champion in so long. But look at George, he lived in the
And for him to
Philippines.
become a unified champion against, you know, one of the best young fighters out.
Yeah, and like, but he had lived in the Philippines, he had lived in LA, you know, and spent a lot of time outside of Australia to be able to achieve that goal.
So it does kind of require, to some extent, a certain amount of international travel and experience.
I think so. Like, Australia's just so isolated from the rest of the world. It's very hard to reach that top level and get the experience of, you know, the international styles and, you know, be, you know, and just exposure as well without leaving Australia. So anyway, rewind to my story. That was what I decided I needed to do if I wanted to take it serious. I was like, you know what? And I got an opportunity for modeling to move here for like the visa side of it. So I was like, fuck it, let's see what happens. And I moved to Miami, last minute decision. I was like, LA, Vegas, and at the last minute I went to Miami and I was like, oh, I love this place. Found a gym there and all was great. And yeah, so I'm based in Miami now for the last 7 years, and I ended up changing teams from when I first started. I have an amazing team, amazing coach, amazing management now. So yeah, everything's really taken off for me, going my way. It's, you know, obviously had a lot of speed bumps and figuring out on the way. It was not easy. I came in with like nothing, no friends, didn't know anybody, no knowledge of how this worked. So, but yeah, look where we are now.
So what's your take on Ramla Ali? She's one of the, you know, obviously great amateur career, been in the sport forever, technically one of the best fighters in boxing. What's your source of confidence, and what do you think of her as a fighter?
I think she's an incredible fighter, but very one-dimensional. Like, and in that one dimension, she's awesome. But outside of that one dimension, she struggles a little bit. Like, I notice things that she doesn't handle pressure well. If you know, have her going on the back foot, she's, you know, a little uncomfortable there. And I'm also good at fighting long range too, just like her. So, but I am good at fighting inside and, you know, applying pressure and getting in. So, and the opponents that she's always fought opponents from smaller weight divisions, including myself. But I'm just happened to actually be her size for once. So this will be the first time for both of us we're fighting someone our own size, like as far as the height. But I feel like that's more significant for her because she relies entirely on her reach. Yeah,
she's definitely a length-heavy style.
Yeah, so like she's not faced someone like me before. I face girls that are better than her in sparring every single week.
Hell yeah, talk that talk.
Longer than her, taller than her, more high level than her. So, you know, like Christina Cruz, I don't know if you know who she is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Christina Cruz is slightly shorter than me, but damn, her arms are longer than all of us. And then there's another girl, Carmen, that I've been sparring regularly. She's like 5'10", like an absolute giant. So you can imagine the reach on her. But it's just been great practice, you know, on being able to get in and apply pressure to a really lengthy, like long-range fighter like Ramla. So I feel confident about this, and I know I just have to take it to a place that she feels uncomfortable. And I've also heard she's a little bit mentally weak from some sources that are mutual friends. So yeah, I think once I can make her really uncomfortable, then she'll probably just fold.
What's your X factor for somebody who hasn't seen you in the ring yet?
I just do my thing and I smile a lot while I'm doing it, which kind of like throws people off their guard, I think. I mean, you know, I'm not mean, I'm not nasty, I'm not like angry at the world. Like I'm in there like living my dream and having fun, and I'm always smiling about it. It's hard for me to actually, even when I'm like trying to look mean when we were doing pictures earlier in the week, I'm like,
this is a little bit too cool to be like in a shitty mood.
yeah, like what an experience, you know. So I'm just, like probably the smile.
Well,
in the most inappropriate situations.
I guess my last question today, you're in New York City. Have you had a proper slice yet?
Of pizza?
Yes.
You know, like the greasy pizza things, not really. I'm more a bagel girl.
Okay.
Yeah, and every time I'm in New York, I eat them for breakfast, for lunch.
What's your bagel spot?
Wherever. Like, I feel like there's not a bad place to go in New York. All
Yeah.
the bagels are good here.
Well, you're in the neighborhood. You should go to Brooklyn Bagel on 24th Street. Now that you've made weight, I think you'll enjoy yourself.
I actually had a bagel already today.
All right, so when in Rome.
The first thing I ate after making weight was a bagel.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on living your dreams. This is awesome. Really looking forward to seeing the fight, and I appreciate your time.
Cool, thank you.
Now, if you enjoyed this video and you want to continue to see videos like this one, go to onlyfans.com/ITRBoxing. We have a ton of content there, and it's really, really easy to see weekly, never before seen videos, some editorials in video form. We have a ton of content that's exclusively over there, and 2 times a month, we're bringing you full-length documentaries or quarter-length, about 15 to 20-minute documentaries for our OnlyFans. So really go, check it out, and see what all the buzz is about.